Technology is everywhere, right? It's in our pockets, in our homes, but it's also getting deep into territory we used to think was purely human. I'm talking about making big, critical decisions. So let's dive into how IT isn't just helping us out anymore, it's actually changing the game.
So, let me ask you this. When you've got a huge decision to make, when the stakes are really high, what's your go-to? Do you dive into the spreadsheets, look at all the hard data? Or do you trust that gut feeling, your intuition? That's the big challenge for pretty much any leader today, right? Finding that perfect balance.
Look, our brains are amazing, no doubt, but let's be honest, they've got their glitches. You ever feel totally overwhelmed by too much information? Or the opposite, paralyzed because you have too little? That's just the start. We can get way too confident, that's the Dunning-Kruger effect in action, or we get swept up in groupthink, take these weird mental shortcuts that lead us astray, and sometimes you just get tired, right? Decision fatigue is a real thing, and these are the exact spots where technology can step in and be a huge help.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this head-on. First, we'll look at the human side of the challenge. Then, I'll introduce a really solid framework for making better choices. And after that, we'll go step by step to see how tech can supercharge every single phase, from figuring out the problem to making sure the solution actually works.
Right, so if we want to make better decisions consistently, we can't just wing it and hope for the best. What we need is a system, a structured process, basically a reliable framework that can take us from, I have no idea what to do, to, okay, this is the plan.
And this idea of having a process isn't some brand new thing. Way back, a Nobel laureate named Herbert Simon laid out this really foundational model. He broke it down into 4 stages. First, he called it intelligence, which is just, hey, do we have a problem? Then comes design. Okay, what are our options? Then choice. Pretty straightforward. Which one's the best? And finally, implementation. Did it actually work? This classic model, it's the bedrock for everything we're going to talk about.
So, taking that classic foundation from Simon, we're going to use a more modern 6-step framework that gives us a super clear roadmap. It goes like this: define, measure, analyze, choose, implement, and then, this is key, control and improve. So let's jump right in with those first 2 steps, which are all about laying the groundwork. Okay, everything, and I mean everything, starts right here. You can't solve a problem if you don't really understand it, right? So these first couple of steps are all about getting crystal clear on the challenge and then gathering all the info you need to even begin to tackle it. So when we talk about gathering data, it really boils down to 2 main kinds. You've got your internal info, all the stuff your company generates itself, sales numbers, customer files, that sort of thing. And then you have the external info, what's going on out in the world, like market trends, what your competitors are up to, all that good stuff. And here's the thing, to make a really great decision, you absolutely need both. But here's the trap. You gather all this data and boom, you're drowning in it. Information overload is real. And this is where tech gets its first big win. Think of AI-powered tools as your data filter. They cut through all the noise, they clean up the messy stuff, and they pull out the actual insights. And then tools like visualization dashboards put it all on a screen for you so you can focus on what actually matters for the choice you need to make.
All right, now we get to the real core of it, the analysis and the choice. This is the moment where all those human biases we mentioned earlier can pop up and really send you down the wrong path. But it's also where technology can be an absolutely incredible partner.
One of the key technologies here is something called a decision support system, or DSS for short. The best way to think about it is like a super tool for managers. It takes all your data and mashes it up with some seriously sophisticated analysis models. It's designed specifically for those tricky, complex decisions, the ones that aren't just a simple yes or no. And what's so cool about a DSS is that it lets you play around with the future, but with 0 risk. You can do a what-if analysis, like what happens if we slash our ad budget by 10%, or sensitivity analysis to see what happens if you make tiny little changes over and over. You can even work backwards with goal seeking, asking, what do we need to do to hit $1 million in sales? And optimization literally finds the best possible outcome you can get with the resources you have. It's like a flight simulator for your business strategy. Just brilliant. And we're moving beyond just models here. We're talking about real intelligence. AI and machine learning can look at all of your options and run predictive analytics on them. They'll sift through mountains of past data to give you a pretty good idea of how each choice might play out. And the best part? They do it without any bias. They never get tired and they never get distracted. It's pure, objective analysis. Okay, now this next tool is it's fascinating. It's called an expert system. Imagine you could bottle up the knowledge of a top-tier human expert in any field. That's what this does.
It uses a huge database of facts, the knowledge base, and something called an inference engine, which is basically its brain, its reasoning part. It literally thinks through a problem. So someone who isn't an expert can get advice that's on par with a top consultant, whether it's for diagnosing a disease or figuring out how to fix a complex machine.
So you've made a choice. Great. But that's only half the battle, right? I mean, a brilliant decision that's executed poorly is, well, it's a failure. So step 5 is all about turning that choice into actual concrete action.
And guess what? Technology is absolutely crucial for the follow-through. You've got project management software, making sure every single task has a name next to it and gets tracked. You have automated reports giving you a live look at how things are going. Just think about launching a new product. The decision to launch is just the start. The real work is using these tools to handle the supply chain, line up the marketing, and watch those initial sales numbers. That's how a choice becomes reality.
And we're still not done. Just because the plan is in motion doesn't mean our work is over. The final critical step is to circle back. We need to control the outcome, measure whether it was actually a success, and most importantly, learn from it so we can do even better next time. Because how do you really know if a decision was the right one? You have to measure the results. And that means gathering and analyzing a whole new flood of data. A team of people, they'd be totally swamped. But a computer, it can crunch these absolutely gargantuan amounts of data like in the blink of an eye. It's just no contest.
So what technology does here is create this incredibly powerful feedback loop. It helps you keep an eye on things to make sure everyone doesn't just slip back into the old way of doing things. It lets you benchmark your results against the competition so you know where you stand. And this is really cool. It can even spot brand new problems or opportunities that popped up because of your decision, which kicks off the whole improvement cycle all over again.
So at the end of the day, this is the big transformation we're talking about. Technology isn't here to replace the human decision maker. Not at all. It's here to augment them, to make them better. It gives us the tools to shift away from just relying on a gut feeling and toward a process that's built on a foundation of hard data, objective reasoning, and frankly, a much, much better shot at success. Which really leaves us with a huge, fascinating question for the future, doesn't it? I mean, as these AI systems get scarily good at handling all the data and the number crunching, what's left for us? What becomes the new role for our human intuition, our creativity, our expertise? Where do we add the most value? Definitely something to think about.